Ever wondered which literary characters totally owned their single status, long before dating apps even existed? Or whose decision to stay unmarried concealed terrifying secrets, incredible powers, or even the blueprint for solving the most baffling crimes? Could a wizard's bachelorhood be the key to saving entire worlds? Not once, but twice. What happens when a woman, jilted at the altar, dedicates her entire existence to a cold, chilling revenge, all while still wearing her decaying wedding dress? And could an unassuming old lady in a quiet village actually be a crime-fighting genius, all thanks to her keen observations of everyday life? Prepare to have your perceptions shattered as we delve into the extraordinary lives, the hidden depths, and the lasting legacies of literature's most unforgettable singletons. These aren't just characters who happen to be unmarried. Their bachelor or spinster status is woven into the very fabric of their being, shaping their destinies and the stories that made them legends. Get ready to meet the aunts and uncles of fiction who prove that going solo can be the most powerful story of all. Number 6. Gandalf. The wizard who is too busy saving Middle-earth to settle down. Picture this. A tall, imposing figure with a long gray beard, a pointed blue hat, a magical staff, and a mischievous twinkle in his eye. That is Gandalf, a name that echoes through the valleys and mountains of Middle-earth, a character synonymous with wisdom, power, and a rather timely knack for showing up just when things are about to go spectacularly wrong, or right. J.R.R. gifted us this phenomenal wizard, first in The Hobbit and then as a central pillar in The Lord of the Rings. But did you ever stop to think about Gandalf's relationship status? Spoiler, it is complicated, or rather, utterly non-existent in human terms. Gandalf is not just an old man with a flair for pyrotechnics and a deep knowledge of ancient lore. He is an Istari, one of 5 wizards sent to Middle-earth in human form to help its peoples stand against the rising darkness of Sauron. These beings are mere primordial spirits of immense power, angelic in nature. For Gandalf, things like marriage, settling down, or starting a little wizarding family were simply not on the agenda. His purpose was far grander, far more cosmic. Imagine trying to fill out a dating profile for a celestial being whose main hobbies include battling Balrogs and orchestrating the downfall of Dark Lords. It just does not compute. His single, unattached status was not a choice born of loneliness or lack of options. It was an intrinsic part of his mission, allowing him the freedom and singular focus required to wander Middle-earth, stirring hope and courage wherever he went. This freedom made him an avuncular figure, a kind of roaming uncle to many. Think about his relationship with the hobbits. To Bilbo Baggins, he was the spark that ignited an unexpected adventure, pushing him out the door towards dragons and treasure. To Frodo Baggins, he was a guide, a mentor, a protector, gently nudging him towards his terrible world-saving destiny. He would often appear at Bag End, share some smoke from his pipe, delight the local children with magical fireworks, and then vanish again, off on some mysterious errand. He was the exciting relative who brought tales of the wide world, a touch of magic, and a sense of impending importance to their otherwise quiet lives. He was not bound by domestic duties, which meant he could dedicate centuries to studying ancient scrolls, understanding the enemy, and weaving together the alliances necessary to protect all that was good. His personality was a delightful mix. One moment he could be the grumpy old man, short-tempered and impatient, especially with foolish, tookish behavior. The next, he was Gandalf, the gray, wise, and profound, offering counsel that could shape the fate of kingdoms. And then there was Gandalf the White, reborn after his monumental battle with the Balrog, even more powerful, radiating an almost ethereal authority, yet still retaining that familiar spark. He loved simple pleasures, the taste of good pipeweed, a well-told story, the company of good friends. Yet he could also unleash terrifying power, as seen when he confronted the Balrog in the depths of Moria with the unforgettable cry, "You shall not pass." That moment, where he sacrifices himself for the Fellowship, is perhaps one of the most iconic in fantasy literature, touting the depth of his commitment. Gandalf's bachelorhood, if we can even call it that, Gus his dedication. He carried the weight of an entire world's struggle on his shoulders. He was a disturber of the peace, as some called him, because he refused to let people ignore the growing shadows. His role was to inspire action, not to build a personal life. His impact was immeasurable. Without Gandalf, Smaug might never have been defeated. Without Gandalf, the One Ring might never have been identified or destroyed. He was the strategist, the morale booster, the one who understood the bigger picture when everyone else was lost in the details. He saw the potential in the small, unassuming hobbits, recognizing that courage and resilience come in all sizes. His legacy is that of the archetypal wise old wizard, a figure of immense power who uses it not for personal gain, but for the good of all. His unattached nature is not a footnote, but a cornerstone of his character, freeing him to be the ultimate guide and protector Middle-earth so desperately needed. He was, in essence, married to his cause, and that made all the difference. Number 5. Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster, whose secrets were as deep as his love for lemon drops. Step into the magical world of Harry Potter, and you will inevitably encounter the towering yet kindly figure of Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. Headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, founder of the Order of the Phoenix, and the only wizard Lord Vemla ever feared. With his long silver beard often tucked into his belt, half-moon spectacles perched on his crooked nose, and an ever-present twinkle in his bright blue eyes, Dumbledore is the epitome of the wise, if eccentric, mentor. But behind the gentle smiles and the penchant for sherbet lemons lay a man of profound complexity, immense power, and a lifelong bachelorhood deeply intertwined with his past and his extraordinary responsibilities. Baldro's single status was not just a casual detail. It was a significant aspect of his character, shaped by personal tragedy and an unwavering commitment to the greater good. We learn much later in the series penned by J.K. Rowling about his youthful friendship and intense emotional connection with the dark wizard Gellert Grindelwald. This relationship, which ended in a devastating three-way duel involving his brother Aberforth and leading to the accidental death of their sister Ariana, left an indelible mark on Dumbledore. It is strongly suggested that this early profound connection and its tragic end shaped his approach to personal relationships for the rest of his long life. He carried the guilt of Ariana's death and the weight of his past ambitions with Grindelwald as a heavy burden, perhaps making him wary of deep personal attachments that could be exploited or lead to further pain. His role in Harry Potter's life, and indeed in the entire wizarding world's fight against Vilvni, was paramount. He was more than just a headmaster. He was Harry's primary protector, guide, and a sort of grandfatherly or avuncular figure. Provided Harry with crucial information, though often frustratingly piecemeal, about his parents, his connection to Wivni, and the path he must take. Baldro's office, filled with whirring silver instruments and the Soding Hat, was a place of both wonder and trepidation for Harry. It was where he received many of his most important life lessons, and also some of his most difficult truths. Baldro's belief in Harry was unwavering, even when Harry himself faltered. Yet, this guidance was not without its controversies. Baldred was a master manipulator, albeit often for benevolent reasons. He knew that Harry had to die at Wulvini's hand for the Dark Lord to be ultimately defeated, a terrible secret he kept for years, guiding Harry like a pig for slaughter, as Severus Snape so bitterly observed. This immense responsibility, the need to make impossibly hard choices that affected countless lives, likely reinforced his solitary path. His personality was a fascinating blend of immense wisdom, playful eccentricity, and profound sorrow. He could deliver speeches at the start of term feast filled with whimsical nonsense, necked-wit, blubber, oddment, twig, and then, moments later, offer insights of incredible depth and seriousness. He championed love as the most powerful form of magic, a force Wyvernith could never understand. His iconic moments are numerous. His calm defiance of ministry officials, his breathtaking duel with Wyvernith in the atrium of the Ministry of Magic, his patient explanations to Harry about the nature of good and evil, and of course his carefully orchestrated death at the hands of Snape, a sacrifice designed to further the cause against Wolverine. Even his memories, viewed through the pensieve, reveal a man capable of great love, great error, and great remorse. Dumbledore's impact on the wizarding world was monumental. He was a beacon of hope against two of the most dangerous dark wizards of all time. He inspired loyalty and courage in those around him, from the members of the Order of the Phoenix to the students of Hogwarts. His legacy is that of a brilliantly flawed hero. He was not perfect. He made mistakes, some with devastating consequences. But his ultimate commitment to fighting darkness, his belief in redemption, and his capacity for love defined him. His bachelorhood, colored by his past and necessitated by his present burdens, allowed him the singular focus to be the chess master in the long game against Volva. He was a solitary figure carrying the weight of the world, but it was this solitude, this unencumbered dedication, that perhaps enabled him to see the path to victory when all others were lost in the dark. He remains one of literature's most beloved and complex bachelor figures, a testament to the idea that a single life, dedicated to a profound purpose, can change the fate of many. Number 4. Sherlock Holmes, the detective, who deduced his way out of romance. Enter 221B Baker Street, London, a residence as legendary as its most famous occupant. Mr. Sherlock Holmes, created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Holmes is not merely a detective. He is the consulting detective, an unparalleled mind capable of unraveling the most tangled mysteries from the slightest of clues. With his hawk-like eyes, sharp features, deerstalker cap, though that was more an illustrator's edition later popularized, and Pipe Holmes is the quintessential image of the brilliant, eccentric investigator. And central to this image, to his very methodology, is his confirmed bachelorhood. For Holmes, romance was not just off the table. It was a potential contaminant to the pure, cold light of reason. Holmes's decision to remain single was a conscious one, deeply rooted in his philosophy and his dedication to his unique profession. He famously stated, "Love is an emotional thing, and whatever is emotional is opposed to that true cold reason which I place above all things. I should never marry myself, lest I bias my judgment." For Holmes, emotional entanglements, particularly of the romantic sort, were seen as data corruptors, introducing variables that could cloud observation and logical deduction. His world was one of facts, evidence, and an unyielding pursuit of truth. A wife, a family, the domestic sphere, these were all potential distractions from the game that was always afoot. His flatmate and chronicler, Dr. John Watson, often marveled at Holmes's detachment, noting his lack of interest in the fairer sex except when they presented as clients or key figures in a case. While he eschewed romantic love, Holmes was capable of a different kind of attachment, most notably his deep and enduring friendship with Watson. Watson was his sounding board, his loyal companion, and in many ways his connection to the more conventional human world that Holmes often seemed to view from an anthropological distance. Watson's presence humanized Holmes, providing a foil to his sometimes abrasive intellect and offering the reader a more relatable perspective on the great detective's methods. Then there was Irene Adler, the woman, as Holmes referred to her. She outwitted him in a scandal in Bohemia, earning his profound respect not for her beauty, but for her intelligence and cunning. It was an admiration of intellect, not a romantic yearning, yet it was the closest Holmes ever came to expressing something akin to sentiment for a woman. Holmes' personality was a captivating mix of high intellect, intense focus, and peculiar habits. When engrossed in a case, he was a whirlwind of energy capable of extraordinary feats of observation and disguise. In periods of inactivity, however, he could sink into profound ennui, resorting to his violin for solace, or, more controversially, his cocaine use, described in a 7% solution, a detail that reflected the medical views of the time, but startles modern readers. He was often arrogant, dismissive of the efforts of official police, like Inspector Lestrade, yet his results were undeniable. His iconic moments filled the pages of Conan Doyle's stories, his astonishing deductions from a dropped hat or a muddy boot print, his dramatic unmasking of culprits, his faked death at Reichenbach Falls to escape the clutches of Professor Moriarty, the Napoleon of crime, and his triumphant return years later. The impact of Sherlock Holmes on literature and popular culture is simply colossal. He essentially created the template for the modern detective, the brilliant, slightly eccentric investigator who relies on observation and deduction. Countless detectives since have walked in his fictional footsteps. His bachelorhood is a key part of this template. It emphasizes his singular devotion to his craft, his almost monastic dedication to the science of detection. It allows him the freedom to pursue cases at all hours, to immerse himself entirely in the intellectual challenge, without the constraints of domestic life. His legacy is that of the ultimate rational mind, a symbol of logic and intellect triumphing over chaos and crime. His unmarried status is not presented as a lack or a sadness, but as a deliberate choice, a necessary condition for the full flowering of his unique genius. Sherlock Holmes remains the definitive bachelor detective, a man for whom the greatest adventure was always the intricate puzzle of the human condition viewed through the clear, unclouded lens of pure reason. Number 3. Miss Marple, the sweet old lady who was actually a criminology expert. Do not let the fluffy white hair, the gentle blue eyes, or the perpetually busy knitting needles fool you. J. Marple. The beloved creation of the Queen of Crime, Agatha Christie, might appear to be just another elderly spinster in the quaint English village of St. Mary Mead, but beneath that unassuming exterior lies one of the most astute detective minds in fiction. Miss Marple's power comes not from forensic science or daring chases, but from a lifetime spent observing human nature in the microcosm of her village. Her spinster status is not just a biographical detail. It is the very bedrock of her unique investigative method. Living alone, never having married, Miss Marple had the time and the inclination to become a connoisseur of village life. Every scandal, every petty jealousy, every hidden kindness, every small-town tragedy was catalogued in her sharp mind. And it was this deep understanding of human behavior, in all its predictable and surprising varieties, that allowed her to solve the most complex murders that often baffled the official police. She knew that while the settings might change, a glamorous resort, a wealthy estate, a London hotel, human nature remained remarkably consistent. There is a great deal of wickedness in village life. She would often muse a statement that invariably proved true. When confronted with a murder mystery, Miss Marple would almost always find a parallel in St. Mary Mead. A deceptive young man reminded her of a local lad who was not to be trusted, or a seemingly devoted wife mirrored another village woman with a hidden, darker side. This ability to draw analogies was her superpower. Her spinsterhood afforded her a certain invisibility. People, especially criminals, tended to underestimate her, dismissing her as a harmless, sometimes dithering old lady. This was a grave mistake. While they saw a quaint ant-like figure, she was quietly observing, listening, and piecing together clues that everyone else had missed. She was often invited to stay with relatives or friends, and trouble, particularly murder, had a habit of following her, or perhaps she had a habit of being where it was about to erupt. Her nephew, the writer Raymond West, often viewed her with a mixture of affection and condescension, never quite grasping the full extent of his aunt's brilliance, until she inevitably solved the case. This underestimation worked to her advantage, allowing her to gather information discreetly. Miss Marple's personality was gentle yet firm, with a shrewd understanding of the darker aspects of humanity balanced by a fundamental belief in justice. She was not cynical for cynicism's sake. Her views were based on long and careful observation. She enjoyed her garden, her tea, and of course her knitting, which often seemed to aid her thought processes, the rhythmic click of the needles a counterpoint to the intricate workings of her mind. Iconic moments in her stories often involve her quietly revealing the solution to a seemingly unsolvable crime, shocking everyone with her logical deductions based on her village parallels. She might say something like, "The fact is that I am a very old woman, and I have seen a great deal of human nature, and I have learned that it is very much the same everywhere." Or she might calmly explain how a particular glance, a misplaced word, or an out-of-character action reminded her of someone from St. Mary Mead, thereby unlocking the entire puzzle. The impact of Miss Marple on the detective genre has been profound. She demonstrated that a detective did not need to be a tough-talking private eye or an eccentric genius with a laboratory. Insight, wisdom, and a deep understanding of people could be just as effective, if not more so. She represented a different kind of power, the power of quiet observation and accumulated life experience. Her spinster status was integral to this, gave her the social position, the time, and the unique perspective that made her such an effective sleuth. She was not tied down by a husband or children. Her family was, in a sense, the entire human race, whose foibles she understood so well. Miss Marple remains one of literature's most cherished detectives, a testament to the idea that extraordinary abilities can be found in the most ordinary-seeming individuals. She proved, case after case, that being an unmarried village lady was not a limitation, but her greatest strength in the pursuit of truth. Number 2. Betsy Trotwood, the aunt who fought donkeys and misfortune with equal ferocity. In the sprawling, rich narrative of Charles Dickens' David Copperfield, there are many memorable characters, but few stride onto the page with such force and unforgettable eccentricity as Miss Betsy Trotwood, David's great aunt. She is a formidable figure, a spinster by circumstance and by an indomitable will, whose gruff exterior hides a heart of surprisingly tender gold. Her life, unencumbered by a conventional marriage after a youthful, disastrous union, allows her to become a pivotal force for good in David's troubled young life. Miss Betsy first appears at the very moment of David's birth, full of expectation that the child will be a girl, a Betsy Trotwood Copperfield, who she intends to mentor and protect from the pitfalls of men. When David is born a boy, her disappointment is palpable, and she vanishes from his life as abruptly as she arrived. However, years later, when young David, orphaned and suffering under the cruel tyranny of his stepfather, Mr. Murdstone, runs away and throws himself upon her mercy, Miss Betsy's true character begins to shine. Though initially stern and bewildered, her fundamental kindness and sense of justice prevail. She takes him in providing him with a safe haven in her neat little cottage in Dover, a cottage famously besieged by donkeys, much to her unending irritation. Her constant, almost warlike battles to keep donkeys off her patch of green are a source of comic relief, but also symbolize her fierce protectiveness of her domain and those she chooses to shelter within it. Her spinsterhood, or more accurately, her determined independence, after a brief and unhappy marriage to a handsome but utterly worthless man who squandered her money and abused her, shaped her entire outlook. This man occasionally reappears in her life, a shadow from the past, seeking to exploit her, but she handles him with a mixture of weary resignation and firm resolve. This experience left her with a general suspicion of men and a fierce desire for autonomy. She managed her own affairs, lived by her own rules, and answered to no one. This independence is precisely what enabled her to act decisively when David needed her most. She was not beholden to a husband's opinions or constrained by domestic expectations that might have prevented another woman of that era from taking in a destitute nephew. She simply consulted her own strong moral compass and her companion, the gentle, childlike Mr. Dick, whose own mental fragility she fiercely protected. Miss Betsy's personality is a delightful paradox. She is sharp-tongued, opinionated, and can seem intimidating. She insists on calling David Trotwood and initially subjects him to a rather rigorous bathing and new set of clothes, as if to wash away his past miseries. Yet, beneath this formidable facade is a deep well of compassion and loyalty. She not only provides David with a home, but also with a quality education, sending him to Dr. Strong's school in Canterbury. She offers unwavering support to Mr. Dick, recognizing his inherent goodness, despite his muddled thoughts about King Charles's head. Her iconic moments are many. Her dramatic arrival and departure at David's birth, her fierce confrontation with the Murdstones, where she gives them a piece of her mind that readers cheer, for her calm dignity when she faces financial ruin due to bad investments, downsizing her life without complaint, and her ultimate joy in David's success and happiness. The impact Miss Betsy has on David is due. She is quite literally his savior. She provides him with the stability, love, and opportunity that allow him to grow into a successful and good man. She teaches him resilience, integrity, and the importance of kindness. In a Victorian society, where women, particularly unmarried or separated women, often faced precarious existences, Betsy Trotwood stands out as a figure of strength and agency. She is not portrayed as a pitiable old maid, but as a vibrant, capable woman who carves out a meaningful life on her own terms. Her legacy is that of the eccentric but ultimately heroic aunt. She embodies the idea that family is not just about blood, but about who steps up in times of need. Her single, independent life was not a failing or a tragedy. It was the very thing that empowered her to be the remarkable, life-changing force she was. Betsy Trotwood remains one of Dickens' most beloved characters, a testament to the power of an unconventional woman to make an extraordinary difference. Number 1. Miss Havisham, the bride frozen in time, whose heart turned to ice. Perhaps no figure in literature embodies the tragic, chilling extreme of spinsterhood, quite like Miss Havisham of Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. She is not merely unmarried. She is a woman petrified in a single moment of betrayal, a living monument to a wedding day that never happened. Her Sadis house, with its stopped clocks, decaying wedding feast, and her own spectral presence in a tattered yellowed wedding gown, is one of the most haunting and potent images in all of English literature. Miss Havisham's story is a dark fairy tale, a cautionary exploration of how profound heartbreak can fester into a life-consuming vengeance, making her the ultimate, iconic, and terrifying spinster figure. Miss Havisham's paid cow is the key to her Gothic existence. A wealthy heiress, she was cruelly jilted on her wedding day by a conman named Compeyson, who collaborated with her jealous half-brother Arthur. This devastating betrayal shattered her. Instead of moving on, she chose to stop time. The clocks in Sadis house were all halted at 20 minutes to 9, the exact moment she received a letter informing her of Compeyson's desertion. The bridal feast remains laid out, now covered in cobwebs and crawling with spiders, a grotesque testament to her arrested life. She herself has not seen sunlight in years, living in a decaying gloom, still wearing one wedding shoe, her bridal finery now a shroud. Her spinsterhood is not a quiet choice or a societal label. It is a self-inflicted prison, a perverse shrine to her pain. Her primary role in the novel, beyond being a source of mystery and macabre fascination for young Pip, is to be a twisted sort of fairy godmother, or perhaps more accurately, a puppet master. She adopts a beautiful young girl, Estella, and meticulously raises her for one single chilling purpose: to break men's hearts, to be Miss Havisham's instrument of revenge on the entire male sex. Miss Havisham teaches Estella to be cold, proud, and incapable of love. "Break their hearts, my pride and hope. Break their hearts and have no mercy," she whispers to the child. Pip, brought to Satis house to play, becomes one of Estella's first victims, falling deeply and painfully in love with the girl who is designed to hurt him. Miss Havisham watches this emotional torture with a grim satisfaction, believing she is hardening Pip, but mostly reveling in the vicarious pain inflicted through Estella. Her personality is as decayed as her surroundings. She is bitter, manipulative, and deeply, almost psychotically, melancholic. There are moments, however, particularly in her interactions with Pip, where glimmers of a warped affection, or perhaps a need for connection, seem to surface, only to be quickly submerged by her overriding desire for vengeance. Her iconic moments are seared into literary memory. Pip's first encounter with her in the candlelit gloom of her room, her skeletal figure, the glittering jewels on her withered frame, her constant refrain of "love her, love her, love her," directed at Pip about Estella, knowing full well it will bring him only miseries. Her eerie delight when Estella recounts her consequence. One of the most dramatic and symbolic moments is when she accidentally sets herself on fire, the flames consuming her wedding dress, a horrifying but perhaps necessary immolation before she can find any sort of redemption. Miss Havisham's impact on Pip is profound and largely detrimental for much of the story. She allows him to believe she is his secret benefactor, fueling his great expectations and his snobbery, when in reality, his fortune comes from an entirely different and far more humble source. Her true legacy, however, is as a study in the destructive power of unresolved trauma and bitterness. She is a tragic figure, a victim of a cruel deception, but she allows that victimhood to define and destroy her, and in turn attempts to destroy others. Towards the end of her life, particularly after the fire, she does express remorse, recognizing the harm she has done, especially to Pip, and in twisting Estella into an emotionless being. "What have I done? What have I done?" she cries, a too-late understanding of the devastation wrought by her lifelong obsession. Her spinsterhood, born of a singular cataclysmic event, became a weapon and a cage. Miss Havisham stands as literature's most extreme and unforgettable spinster, a chilling reminder of how love denied and pain untended can curdle the human spirit, leaving behind only dust, decay, and a heart that learned to beat only for revenge.